Welcome to Reddit Stories Cookie Edition. The best cheating videos on YouTube. If you enjoy this content, be sure to subscribe and turn on notification. Now let's get into the video. Discovered sex videos of my wife with her affair partner. Can't get images out of my mind now. My wife of 10 years and I had a very good married life together, or so I thought. No financial worries, a terrific 4-year-old son, and a fairly good sex life with the exception that I often expressed a desire to try new things, sex among other things less naughty, and get more creative sexually overall as a couple. She said she was not interested in being kinky and that she liked things the way they were. She also said she felt that different sexual poses and sex talk in bed also made her feel uncomfortable in 403. I decided to pick my battles and let it slide since every other part of our marriage was pretty great. We were attentive and affectionate with each other, had date nights, remembered important anniversaries, etc. But, with the loss of one of her beloved aunts and increased work responsibilities, she'd suddenly begun wondering if maybe she'd lost her identity and independence somewhere over the years while becoming a mom and career woman. I told her I was sorry she felt that way and asked if I could help her find herself, feel better, etc. Her reply was that someone as confident as I was couldn't possibly understand what she was going through. Still, I endeavored to help where I could, but to no avail. Then, 23 months ago, I discovered my wife was cheating on me. She had been acting unusually distant and started bathing instead of showering so she could text on her phone. She said it was to a girlfriend who needed her support. She also had started working out, losing weight, new haircut, new sexier clothes, etc. Plenty of red flags and enough to convince me to investigate. She said that she needed to decompress from being a working mom and was going to visit an old girlfriend. I helped her pack and left a love note in her suitcase to let her know that I'd miss her and loved her. I hoped that I was imagining things and was mistaken. I couldn't believe that she would betray me that way. Nonetheless, I checked her mileage on her car and noticed a huge discrepancy in the miles needed to get to and from her girlfriend's home. This was troubling since she had told me that she had driven straight there and that her and the friend had gone nowhere but in the friend's car. With this revelation, I decided to place a keylogger on her laptop. What I discovered left me devastated. I discovered that she had met an old boyfriend on Facebook a few months prior, quickly entered the affair fog, moving on to a physical one very quickly. I also was able to access her cell phone when she was in the shower one day and send copies to myself of conversations with her lover. She evidently had delighted in obliging him, his favorite fantasies foremost among these, sex. Evidently his wife wasn't interested in butt and my wife wanted badly to fill that void for him. As a means of keeping him interested and excited, she had sent him videos of herself touching herself, progressing later into her giving him permission to actually make videos of their sex encounters. I discovered some of them he had sent her, along with text messages discussing their plans for their next meetup, during my search. Each time, he would follow up and send her an MP3 of some love song he said reminded him of her, followed by how much he cared about her and how great the sex was, and how nice her butt was, etc. What strangely hurt me initially was how readily she was just how willing to try new things sexually with this idiot. Gone was the reluctant, rather sexually conservative wife I had known. This creature was very sexual, submissive, and willing to try anything, yes, just about anything, that would please him, even the previously dreaded butt sex. Initially she denied everything. Told me how angry she was that I was accusing her and how I was being paranoid. So, I showed her my evidence. She was plainly stunned and shaken. Her face turned ashen. She began to mumble something about how she was so sorry and that the affair was something that had just happened. I'll admit I was angry, enraged even. I verbally let her have it and called her every hurtful thing I could think of. Then, exhausted, I just sat down on the ground and wept. I had plenty of chances to cheat over the years and never took the bait. I simply loved her too much and would never have risked the good thing we had. For her, betrayal was easier. But, I was also sure from reading her AP's text that he was plainly using her to fill the void in his own marital sex life. My wife quickly responded with a resounding no to that idea. She was convinced that he loved her, would give it all up eventually for her, and would stand by her even now. So, I challenged her to call him up, put him on speakerphone, and while acting like it was just another casual call, point blank confirm her belief by asking him if he truly was in love with her and would come get her right. Now, because things had gone south and I had discovered the affair. As expected, the coward went immediately into damage control. He told her that he did care about her but that he felt uncomfortable with the words in love. He said that what they had was good while it lasted, but it would be best if they got back to focusing on their own marriages. He followed up with a kind of stuttered "I'm sorry" and begged her to not tell me who or where he was. Though still beyond angry, I could help but almost feel sorry for my wife when I saw the look of total despair and abandonment on her face from realizing that this man had told her anything to get her to become his personal 403. Worse, I think, was that she knew that she had done so in such a willing way. And even worse still was the fact that I had seen exactly how she had been with him sexually and also had heard the things she had said during her encounters, including the loving remarks that hurt me to my core. Before he hung up on her, I picked up the other line and told him to call me on my cell to talk. That if he didn't, I would immediately share all I had at my disposal with every friend, coworker, and family member. In short, I would expose him entirely. He called. He was frantic, obviously worried. He begged me to reconsider, to think of his wife and child. In that desperate moment, I asked him several questions about the affair. He was so afraid and shaken that he willingly verified other things that I had suspected but had not had the proof of: hotel visits, dates, number of times they met for sex, etc., never once suspecting that the whole time I was recording him with an app on my phone. For a moment I could tell that he thought I'd relax a bit and maybe just decide to move on. But I assured him that I understood that my wife had betrayed me. That it was not all his fault. Nevertheless, the fact remained that he had interfered in my marriage. He initiated the contact. He started the affair in motion and was more in control of his emotions. In short, he fully knew what he was doing. He used and manipulated my wife for his own sexual deficits at home. Yes, she had been emotional and stupid, but he had been calculating, and when he came to that crossroad of decisions, he had chosen to interject himself into my marriage, my life, and for that there would be no reconsideration, no mercy from me to him. I told him that I would utterly destroy him. I would blow up his life. And, so, in time, I did. Suffice it to say that when it was over, everyone in his life knew what a waste of human flesh he was. In seeking justice, and yes, revenge too, I notified his wife. She experienced the same devastation I had. The next day, when her head was clearer, she sent me the rest of his videos she discovered, copies of sex texts, etc., and I sent her the one I had. My curiosity and hunger to learn everything I could about what happened to me prevailed over the sickening feeling I had about watching my wife's sex videos. The videos were like watching a different person. She was literally begging him to did it with her, allowing him to did it all over her face and then perform for the camera by telling him how good he tasted, etc. When I discussed it with her, she claimed she had forgotten acting like that and felt like she had been someone else during the filming, saying he'd promised to delete them after viewing them once, and though the video had been destroyed on his end, ops. I asked her why she'd never been like that with me, and she said it was because she had enjoyed our normal sex with each other in the intimacy more, and had done all the crazy sex, as she called it, because she just wanted so badly to please him more than his wife, and that the prospect/challenge of it excited something inside her more than she had ever expected it to. She admitted to being ashamed, embarrassed, regretful. She begged me not to leave her and to work on our marriage. We sought counseling. I didn't want to throw years of building a life together away without trying. In the years since, she has worked very hard to make our marriage her top priority. She constantly does whatever it takes to be transparent and account for her time. She knows that I even now sometimes need her to drop everything and reassure me when something triggers the movies in my head. However, as much as I've forgiven her, and deeply love this woman, I will never forget those videos and how she treated him in them. How she gave more of herself sexually to him than to me. She says she's depressed over not being able to recreate the same level of intense sex play in our marriage for us. She claims it was because the affair was a new, exciting, forbidden fruit type of relationship, and what we have is much deeper, and satisfying, but less exciting. We are not novel to each other. She says she's sorry for that and sorry that I feel that her AP was treated better in bed than I was or am even now. What she doesn't seem to grasp is that for most men, I think that physical love is huge in our relationships with our lover and wives, and when another male is given so much more access to our wives' sexual self, it can be nearly insurmountable in that it will always leave us feeling like we are number two, since number one, the AP, was given so much more over the top sex. Especially if, as she says, nothing like it can be recreated for me. So it's back to vanilla sex play like before, albeit with all her love and affection, or at least that's her take on it. My question is this: how on earth am I to ever to get these images out of my head? On one hand, I'm glad I watched the videos because my imagination would have been far worse, that I'm sure of. At least I know that her lover was not an Adonis, but a portly guy, and an awful lover, very little foreplay and a small package. Nonetheless, the images persist, though not as often as they did in the beginning. Any suggestions on how to eradicate them? Any real, mature advice would be greatly appreciated.